7:05.
Not bad.
I'm doing a quick scan here on my Zoom. It looks like we're all here. Yep. We'll need a motion to adopt the agenda.
I move that we adopt the agenda.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Any opposed? Okay, hearing none, thank you. We'll move into our announcements. We'll go ahead and let Joe and staff go first. Go ahead.
Okay. Good evening, everyone, again. Real quick, I'm going to make a quick announcement right here. I know we brought up last night in the budget meeting what, I don't know who it was. It might have been you, AJ, who brought up what the collection rate was year to date, or excuse me, month to date for June. I thought, was it you?
Yeah, I asked what June's collection rate was.
I just got it hot off the press for you. 94.6. Year to date is 93.9.
Thank you.
You're welcome. At this time, I will turn the COVID response over to Norm.
Good evening, everyone, again. The following is the current update operational picture for the COVID response for Whatcom County. The following information is provided from Unified Command and Johns Hopkins University, as well as the Washington State Risk Assessment Dashboard for COVID. Whatcom County confirmed cases to date, 685. Deaths of 40. It was at 41, but one was reclassified as a non-COVID fatality. Johns Hopkins reports there's 303.52 cases per 100,000 residents. Metrics for phase 2, this is what determines if we're going to move up or down. Rate per 100,000 of newly diagnosed cases during the prior 2 weeks. Are we meeting goal as a county? No. Metric, number of individuals tested for each new case during the prior week. Meeting goal? No. Metric, percentage of individuals testing positive for COVID during the past week. Meeting goal? No. Metric, percentage of licensed beds occupied by patients with COVID patients. Meeting goal? No. Metric, percentage of licensed bed occupied by COVID-19 cases. Meeting goal? Yes. Washington State, 39,661 confirmed cases, 1,395 deaths. Current public health orders in effect. Mask Up Washington, that went into effect Tuesday, requires all businesses or providing businesses may refuse services to patrons who do not abide by the Mask Up Washington policy. Phase 2 social distancing gatherings defined to 5 or less non-family members once per week are in effect. Other PPE measures also recommended, such as gowns and gloves as they apply. Hygiene and sanitation is highly recommended that continue at an increased pace. Washington State, as well as Whatcom County, is experiencing a surge in positive cases. Due to the outbreak, the governor put into effect a pause of moving counties to the next phase and for at least 2 weeks for evaluation to determine if the measures in place are going to be effective, or he has to make other considerations. Incident objectives for our Unified Command are unchanged for operational period 15. I can review those if you'd like, but there are no changes from the previous operational period. Priorities for Unified Command are to continue communications out about the face covering requirements, as well as we're all in this together, which is our newest media campaign to raise awareness about what's required to help curtail the current infection rate. Sudden Valley objectives, they are unchanged. Our phase 3 planning has been put on hold per the governor's proclamation. Criminal operational monitoring for phase 2 is unchanged. Our meeting schedules for the COVID-19 virus are unchanged. External messages to the membership and agency partners is unchanged. And again, for updates concerning COVID-19 response to the county through Unified Command. Unified Command is again requesting going to www.whatcomcovid.com. That is my report. Are there any questions? All right, I appreciate everybody's patience and thank you very much.
Thank you, Norm. Any other announcements before we move into board member comments? Or excuse me, I always say that, community member comments.
We have somebody that has their microphone on. Can we have them, everybody mute? I don't know. Is anybody else hearing that air noise?
I am, yes. I'm seeing some nods as well.
It might
Yes.
be Rob. He's
Rob,
one
we
of-
may be picking up some road noise.
You're probably picking me up. I'm in the car, guys. Sorry about that. I'll make sure it's
Oh, I
muted.
bet you that is it.
Okay, if there are no other announcements, we'll move into community member comments, property owner comments.
Okay, for our property owners that are here, just use the raise hand feature in Zoom and we can bring you in for any comments that you may have. All right, we've got Nancy. Go ahead and give your full name and address. There you go, Nancy.
Allianat, or Sandalwood Circle. Could you hear me?
Yeah, you could speak up a little bit.
You're just a little low.
Okay, how's this? More
Better.
Okay. To clear up a misunderstanding, at the June 15th board meeting, a board member asked the president to consult our parliamentarian. Her request can be heard at 46 minutes, 50 seconds on the meeting video. That particular board member requested a parliamentary inquiry, not me. Now that that's cleared up, I have a comment. When I first read our bylaws, there was a balance between members and board. Each year, the balance tilted farther one way and never back. It seems the only right left to members is to write checks, with one exception. Although you would not know it from the way the 2019 meeting was run, members do have rights at the association annual meeting in November. The November meeting is an assembly of members. And under Robert's rules, members are entitled to full participation in its proceedings. That means all association members have the right to attend, to make motions, to speak and debate, and to vote. With regard to member voting, our bylaws state all members may vote in person on procedural issues raised at any meeting. Yet, at the 2019 annual meeting, the secretary read the instruction, no motion can be made or voted on that is not so indicated on the notice of the meeting. This instruction violates our bylaws and is out of order. Our bylaws specify all members may vote in person on procedural issues raised at any meeting, and our bylaws are silent on whether a member can or cannot make a motion. So any member at the annual meeting has the right to make a motion dealing with a procedural issue, and all members present have the right to vote on that motion and on any subsequent appeals. Note the phrase, all members may vote in person. This is a different formula than one lot, one vote. For procedural issues raised at a meeting, the bylaws give a one member, one vote formula. Procedural issues are those issues relating to the way in which something is done. Members of the association can use these motions to instruct the board to follow procedures. Roberts specifies the society's assembly can give the board instructions which it must carry out. In any event, no action of the board can alter or conflict with any decision made by the assembly. There is a procedural issue I intend to raise at the November meeting. It is a resolution instructing the board to recognize any association member who rises to a point of order or a point of information at a board meeting. It will require a second and is debatable. I believe the majority of association members want more input and will support that motion, and if necessary, will support an appeal. And I can think of additional procedure instructions, and I'm sure other members can too. Thank you.
I'm muted. Thank you, Nancy. I'll go ahead and get you back over to the attendees. And anybody else who would like to join in for property owners' comments, just use the raise hand feature in Zoom and I'll bring you over. Not seeing anybody else at this time.
Okay, thanks, John. Any board member response? Go ahead.
I'd like to take this board member response time to address an email we received this afternoon from a member from a pseudonym. And I will flat out say that that is not from that person. So I'm not sure where this stuff is coming from. But I don't know what we can do about it, but I would just be cautious about interacting with that type of stuff. And I know everyone received it. So just wanted to make people aware about that, because I mean, I don't study languages, but I mean, I know the person that they're trying to mimic, and it's not correct. I mean, it's just not done well. So yeah, just be cautious about some of the emails that we're receiving. Thank you.
Thanks, Josh. Okay, well, if there's no further comments, we'll move into our continuing business. Go ahead. The floor is back over to you, Josh.
All right, so at the last board meeting, when was that? Like 2 minutes ago? We talked about, you guys laugh, but I know you guys are all as tired as I am. We had the parliamentarian here, so there was technically two steps to what was supposed to happen there. We were supposed to have a presentation from Ann, and then we were also, as a board, supposed to discuss possible usage of a parliamentarian, and we didn't get to that discussion. So, we need to have an open discussion on the thoughts of everyone here about using a parliamentarian, not using a parliamentarian. So I don't think I have to make a motion on this since it's an open discussion.
Well, I guess I'll start it out.
I mean, I might
If
have to
you-
contact the parliamentarian about that, but you go ahead, Linda.
I was going to say, has anyone spoken with Ann? Because if she comes to each one of our meetings, there's a price for that. And is that somewhere in our budget under, I'm assuming, board support, that sort of thing?
Joe?
No one has talked, Linda, no one has spoken to Linda, or yeah, to Ann about coming full to every board meeting. But it would, the line item, I believe that would be under other professional services in the general budget. But you and I both know what it costs us to bring her here every time.
AJ.
Yeah, I mean, her rate of pay for the town halls and AGMs and stuff is, yeah, it's not cheap. And personally, I feel, my stance is using the members' money for a babysitter for the board seems silly. And I don't really think we should go that route.
I don't see any other hands. So Josh, go ahead.
My hand's up. My opinion on it is as well. I think it would be very costly, and I'm a proponent of learning from mistakes, and I know we've all had our share of Robert's Rules mistakes. And for anyone that considered themselves an expert, I mean, there's a gazillion editions of this book and procedure, but I think we've had some missed opportunities with it, but I also think that we've recouped from it. And last couple board meetings have been pretty shaky, but I thought there was some good action last night as far as how the things went, even though it was open discussion. See, I'm going off the trail here, but I just think we need to continue and working together and making sure that we're using the procedures as good as we can. If we mess up, let's just learn from it. I mean, if we absolutely need a parliamentarian here for something, I think a case by case is fine, but I definitely think, what it'd be like $10,000 to $15,000. And I know everyone wants speedy meetings. I would prefer to fix that before, fix ourselves internally before asking our neighbors to pay for that type of cost.
Karen.
Joshua just stole my comment. I was just gonna say, if there was one thing that I feel like we could use help on, and maybe it's policing ourselves, it's staying on track. And Joshua just took us off track, and here I am too. But yeah, being a little bit more focused.
Yeah, thanks, Josh, for bringing it to our attention this evening to just have a quick conversation on this. Appreciate it.
I just want to make sure, if someone was expecting that amazing parliamentarian talk, that we got it. So
I do agree. I think we're on a good path right now. Any other comments before we move on? Any final closing statements, Josh? I don't want to just end your.
No, let's move on.
Awesome. Okay, we'll move into our new business. First item of order is board director resignation. Mike D'Angelo has resigned as of July 1. So we do need a motion to accept his resignation.
I will move to accept the resignation of Director D'Angelo effective July 1st, 2020.
Second.
Discussion. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Or hand raise. Thank you. Raise your hand down or something if you disagree. Okay. All right. Motion carries. Thanks, everyone. Sorry to see Mike go. He will be missed. And if you're listening, thanks for everything you've done, Mike. Okay, Sergeant at Arms. So with that, we need to appoint a new Sergeant at Arms.
President Entrigan, I think that we need to request that the NNE chair post the position for 30 days.
You're absolutely right. Thank you.
I'll be happy to do that. I have the notice ready to go effective tomorrow. And it's going to be kind of confusing this time because we've already got candidate applications out there for the AGM. That period is also open. We've kind of done some special sort of highlighting and stuff to hopefully keep applications separate for the two different things that are the candidates that are open right now. And what it's going to do is it's going to be open from Friday, July 10th to Monday, August 10th at 4:30 p.m. for the vacancy. And I made it Monday because the office is closed at the end of the 30-day period on August 9th. But that notice is ready to go up on the website, and I'll have Brent put it in the views.
I'll play Sergeant at Arms for another click here. Go ahead, Joe.
Hey, Linda, last year when we did the AGM and the SGM, we ended up using the same color envelopes. Do you want maybe use a different color paper for the opening for the 30 days as opposed to the board?
I thought about that. The problem is that they can also download the application from online. And I think the girls have a real plan for if people pick, you know, from the office, if they pick it up, I've actually changed the title to where it says board vacancy candidate.
Okay, yeah, because the last thing I want to do is get any confusion, because when we had the AGM and SGM, we had ballots that were, the envelopes were wrong. They were.
Yeah, I hear you.
Yeah,
the
they
girls
were,
will have to check, and if they get an application in, that hopefully if they don't get it through the night pass through, if they take it from someone, they can verify it's for the vacancy.
all right.
Or
Okay, yeah, I was just hoping I'm just trying to clear up any potential pitfalls that might come.
yeah, I hear you.
What about, I mean, this feels like it's going to get a little convoluted for the community with regards to taking applications for next year's board. Now we're taking another board. You know, by the time this person even gets on, we're looking at like 2 months worth of their time. It seems like maybe, you know, we could just forego bringing on another person in light of everything that's going on and all the other stuff that we have to do, considering we still have a quorum of the board.
The concern for me would be, AJ, is that it's part of the bylaws that say that this is what the board shall do. And I don't know that the board can say, hey, I'm going to waive it. I wish they could tell you the truth,
The
but I
board
don't know.
waived our bylaws plenty of times.
AJ, I agree with you in theory too. And past mistakes don't mean that we should continue it. So, I mean, I agree with you that seems like a lot of effort and it's going to get convoluted. At the same time,
It just says the board shall endeavor. So it doesn't say that we shall fill, we just shall endeavor.
we shall post the opening and let people apply.
Indeed.
And then we'll see what happens. Last time it took us, 60, 90 days to get enough
60
applications?
days. It took 60 days.
So we shall see what will happen.
It just says we shall solicit candidates at least 30 days prior to the appointment. And that we shall endeavor to fill the position within 60 days. So if it's 60 days from now, that's even later than what I just said. So it's even less time.
I agree with you. It's just, you know, what do you do? It's what the bylaws say. And I don't know that you can simply just say, we've decided to waive it. I don't know. That would be a question for the attorney. I'm just doing what I got to do right now.
Well, I can run it by Richard, you know, if you want, if that's the pulse of what we all want to do. And Linda can wait for a response.
You know, if you want, I can hold off putting up the notice until we hear from Rich. I'm just saying that's what we normally do.
Rich?
Why spend the money for the attorney when Linda is obeying the bylaws? Just put it up. if nobody puts their name in the hat in the next 60 days, it's going to be a moot point at some point.
I'm comfortable with that. Anyone else?
Linda, is it sorry, Paula, go ahead.
It's open for 30 days. And hopefully that will be over. If we get two, you have to have 2 applicants by August 10th. And I looked at our calendar that we have, the budget calendar, and I actually said that we could make the appointment on the 27th of August. We've kind of got some important dates coming up earlier in August here. On the 13th, when we meet in August, we're supposed to review the AGM materials and finalize draft proofs of stuff. And, you know, we could start a meeting early then and do that, but I just moved it out because on the 27th, it just says regular board meeting. So that's kind of when I plan to do it, but we could move it up. We should see if we get applicants first.
Any
So
other
Andrew,
comments?
I'll go ahead and post it, and this is just probably closed and you can move on.
Okay, let's go with that. Thanks, Linda.
You're welcome.
And thanks for reminding us to engage NNE. Okay, we'll move to the next agenda item, which is appointment of a sergeant of arms.
Mimi, I have my hand raised. Can I nominate Andrew Tischlitter for sergeant at arms?
You may, that sounds like that's a motion.
It is a motion.
I would like to make a motion to nominate. Can you guys hear me? Yeah. Andrew Entrikin.
I'll second that, but I have a question. Can
That's a
someone?
little tough for the president to do.
That's what
Well,
was
it's
going to be my
already your
question.
charge with running the meeting.
Mhm.
Yeah, I'm thrilled that you would like to allocate that to me, Joshua. Yeah, I'm happy to do it, but Steffi's nominated AJ. If he's willing to take it on, I'd like to see if he'd be interested.
I need a
Just
second.
I think Andrew is the only person that's not actually allowed to be the sergeant at arms. I could
Yeah,
be.
that's what. Am I? Like,
I could
Hey,
be
I know, I
Steffi-
kind of thought that too.
Steffi, I'll second your motion.
Thanks, Linda.
any further discussion? These are big shoes to fill. Okay, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries.
Just so everyone knows, I have,
Yay.
Hey, AJ, can we go ahead and get you that little yellow thing and you can just hold it up in front of the camera for the timer?
Referee shirt.
Yeah.
Mike gave me his jazz fedora as a going away present from himself, but I'm not going to hand that off to you, AJ. I'm sorry.
It's all right. I'm not a fedora kind of guy.
All right, Sergeant at Arms, I'm hearing that we need to move the meeting forward. I'm just kidding. Okay, let's get on to the NNE bylaw amendment. Go ahead, Linda.
Okay, guys, it's just a discussion. We took a look at, there were 3 of them we started out with. And when we got started, we realized when we were going through the bylaws that there were other applications and amendments that we might want to make. This is just a draft compilation of what we came up with. I don't expect you all to, these are just for you to review. We're scheduled later on this month to take a look at things, so it's nothing that I need you to do. The three I've put in my summary, the three that I'd love to have focus on. I'm not saying, the decision's going to be yours, whether you do all of them, some of them, none of them, whatever. We tried to, in number one, our lead amendment is to be able to combine SGMs with AGMs. People on Facebook are always saying, well, how come we have to have the extra expense? Why can't we just have it at the AGM? And it's because the bylaws say that it's got to be a petition and it's got to be done in a certain way. There are timelines that we put in with all of this simply because we've done a couple of them, and it just happened here not too long ago where the one dues limitation measure came to pass, and it was just in conflict with when we put budgets together, when we vote on things. And there's additional language in there that has to do with timing. That's why it's there. Then the quorum. We've struggled for a number of years with this quorum of 50 people and what is a voting member, etc. With the recall petition that went on earlier this year, the attorney sent us some information regarding quorums. And in that information was the fact that there are other HOAs that make it a combination of ballots or proxies and actual people at the meeting. If we would do this, we wouldn't be scrambling like we have some years to find those 50 people, plus the continuing, debate about, well, what is a member, considered? If somebody owns 3 lots, do they represent 3 or do they just represent 1? Then you take away that value that they have. The state law we were formed under actually has a really nice thing in there that actually, and I put that in the summary for you all to look at and consider, that they said that it should be 1/10 of a combination of, I believe they called it, let's see, quorum of the meetings, that the votes would either be represented in person or by proxy. And it's 10% of the association. We've used that in many instances where before 50 members were the standard when this was originally formed. It used to require only 50 people to sign a petition and present it to the president to have it brought up for a vote. And state law changed and we modified it to that. It would be in keeping with other standards that we have as far as voting goes, but it would always, in most cases, make it much easier for us to have a quorum at our annual general meetings. With the voting, and that's number 3, and I won't go into, I'll let you guys look at the rest or ask questions if you want. What we're looking for is to eliminate floor voting. Since we've gone to mail-in ballots, you maybe get, in a good year, 4 people. Some people bring their ballots from home and we accept them. We put them in the baskets. They immediately are disqualified when they get downstairs. They haven't been vetted. They haven't been registered. Only the people who have perhaps picked up a ballot the morning of, if the in-person voting, are allowed to vote. They have that special stamp on them. And sometimes the counters sit downstairs and wait for an hour or so to register 1 vote, but it's what you have to do because that's part of it. We still want to preserve the in-person voting in the morning. It would just simply be that you would have to vote before the meeting starts. And so that's kind of where we're at with that. There's other stuff that's in here. Rich has done his evaluation of this. And I just want you to read, over it all, and you can make a decision when we decide to vote on what's going on the ballot or not. And that's all I got, unless you have questions.
I do have a question.
I had my hand up first, sorry. So I had a couple statements. So a large amount of this stuff is just repackaged from last year's bylaw amendments that did not even come close to passing. In fact, they were rejected by the amount of votes that were required to pass it. The first page of it is all the same that the community's already rejected. The second page, as far as I think the petitions being able to be put on the AGM or have an SGM is something that is probably a good thing, and it's definitely something the community has, expressed interest in before. I'm not a huge fan of the timeframes that are put on there. And in case there is something that comes up that the membership deems is such an emergency that it needs to move forward now, that's like 90 days on each side that block. So that's like 6 months worth of time that like they wouldn't be able to do anything with that. And so I don't know, I'm hesitant to put that in there, but I do like the idea that the petition presenters have the option to put it forth on the AGM or the SGM. And then the quorum thing, we tried to change the quorum thing last year in the bylaws as well, and the community didn't want it. I do understand the change. As far as, it makes it easier, but I mean, the community did speak up and say that they weren't interested. It wasn't the exact same thing we put forth last year, I don't think, that's written this year. But basically the community said they didn't want necessarily to change the quorum requirements. And then some of this stuff is like the next page is just like, it's just like minutia that doesn't change anything really. And it's like just abbreviating nominations and elections. We're going to spend paper and money to print ballots to put these things on the AGM, when some of this stuff has already been rejected, some of it not. Continuing on to the next page, on page 4 that you provided with the changes. It was interesting. I was reading the comments and stuff from Rich in there, and it just like some of this stuff is just, it just feels like super trivial. There were some things in there that Rich said he didn't think needed to be in there, but they're still in there. There were some things that he said that we probably shouldn't do, and we seem to still be doing that. Continuing on, like some of this stuff, we're just like moving stuff around in the bylaws. So we're not even changing the bylaws. Like, I understand like it could seem nice to put something in a different spot or whatever, but is it really necessary to spend, the printing costs and stuff just to move language around and then ask the community to spend all the time reviewing this stuff, and then we spend time reviewing this stuff? And then let's see what else. There's another thing I had. I had a question regarding and this is, I think, regardless of what, so there's one change on page, let's see, page 4 of our packet, or the first page of Linda's changes. It's the definition of owner. And so I'm looking at this definition of owner, and it doesn't appear that we're actually changing the definition of owner. As far as the bylaws go, we're just kind of formatting the way it's written differently. But I had some concerns, just regardless of which language it is, owner, stating that the vendee, which is the buyer, not the vendor, of a lot under a real estate contract is considered an owner. Now, a real estate contract is official when you have mutual acceptance, but mutual acceptance does not mean you own the house. And so the fact that that person is allowed to then vote for the person who still owns that property does not seem appropriate until the deed has actually been transferred and they are the official recorded owner. And so I think we should be changing that verbiage to say at closing, basically, or when the contract, not when you're under contract, but when the contract is officially executed, because you got lots of things after mutual acceptance that could derail the sale. There's inspection and other things. And so I got some concerns with that. That's a little concerning that someone could like put their property up for sale and then someone could put an offer and then they get to vote and then they end up not getting the house because the inspection had things they didn't like and then they couldn't come to an agreement or something like that. So, you know, that's, you know, my
I'm
biggest
kind of
concern.
surprised that Rich didn't respond to that.
I am too as well. I just, yeah, I think that's a big thing. I think I like the idea of petitions being able to go in either AGM or SGM, but I don't think we should be pushing forward the same bylaw amendments we pushed last year that the community's already said no.
Okay.
Like it's worth our time.
Something of interest that I'd like to tell you all that I actually looked at in case there was a question is I looked at this draft budget information that we have. And if you add up the amounts of money for the past AGMs and SGMs between 2016 and I think I took it to 2020 because of this year. It actually, it's in because we haven't had our annual general meeting yet this year. Annual general meetings cost us $44,928.67. Special general meetings cost us $44,991.04. And it's a reason why I really think that the opportunity for people to be able to present a petition and have it taken care of at the AGM is really worth us looking at. I really do. And it's for the association. It's not just because it's like we spend so much money and it's, you know, a lot of these costs aren't even captured in these numbers. And if the members had an opportunity to do that, I think some people would do petitions and just say, as long as I can put it in front of the membership to vote on, they'd be happy.
Yeah, I agree with the choice when a petition is presented. Mr. President, Leslie.
Yes, I wanted to say that I'm having a little trouble understanding these. I mean, there are two columns on them. On the right hand, it says original text or nothing if this is a new proposal. But on the left, where we have the proposal and the description, I've got blue and I've got red and I've got black and I've got strike through and I've got this. I would like to see a third column for each one of these, which is the actual proposal with all of the
proposed change.
Yeah, the change section. Okay, so that we can see exactly what it will look like when if it passes and goes into the bylaws. And the other comment actually that I have. Now, AJ, you do make a good point about, a lot of these were rejected last year, but I am concerned that people were told to reject everything. And they basically just, without looking at a lot of this stuff, just off the shelf rejected everything. And I think that some of this could come back, and I haven't looked to see which ones specifically, but things that do make sense, bring them back and focus on the bylaw change proposed here, as opposed to just asking people to reject everything. Please look at each one of these individually and on its own merits.
And so
Leslie, I can do that. I can get it changed and cleaned up.
I agree with Leslie. It's very confusing to follow this thing. I would actually prefer to see the entire bylaw document in a Word document using track changes so we can see what's crossed out and see what's added. In my opinion, the column thing is really hard to follow, and you're like looking here and then looking there and then looking there. Whereas if we just, Word has a track changes feature where if you go and you delete something, it just crosses it out, turns it red. When you type something, it types it in as I think blue maybe, or some other color, so you can see what you crossed out, what you added, and it's all right there in the actual document, not like spread out over columns. Obviously this one is not like, there'll be a lot of just pages of the bylaws that don't have any changes or whatever. And then, just to elaborate on Leslie, I'm a little insulted as a community member who voted against those bylaws that you feel like people can't think for themselves and vote accordingly.
Any other hands, AJ?
I didn't see any, but I don't know. Sometimes I'm looking at other things, I can miss things.
I'll get something put together for you guys to look at and stuff. It shouldn't take too long because it's just, it's there. And I'll just send something out to you guys. Can I just send it in an email since we're just cleaning it up?
I'm fine with that.
I'm okay with an email. Linda, thank you for doing that.
You're welcome.
Anyone else have any comments? All right, Mr. President.
Thanks, AJ. Joe, go ahead and take it away. We're on item D, excuse me.
Good evening, everyone, again. I am bringing this to the board for some discussion. As everyone pretty much knows, years ago, Sun Valley had given back a ton of lots, I want to say about 11 or 1,200 to the county to turn them into green space and not to be built on. I couldn't tell you if they were A lots, B lots, C lots, or D lots. And I don't know if anybody really did understand if they were good lots or not. But what is happening is
Joe, can I stop? What is the difference between, you said A, B, C, D?
Yeah, A is a perfect lot.
Okay, just like a rating system of buildability.
Yeah, D lots are your absolute no way you're ever going to build on.
Gate 5, 50% slope.
But yeah.
Okay, thank you. Sorry to interrupt.
No, you see that stuff in the county all the time where stuff can't be done. But I don't know what they gave away. So we're getting to the point now where basically your A's and B's are gone. You're getting into your C's and D's, and what you're finding through the years, they are hard builds, or they have wetland. They have some wetlands issues in it that you can't get the house on it to sit properly. And those lots have been the ones that through the years have gone to sheriff's sale, and we go through collections with them and everything of that nature. So what I'm looking at going forward, it's going to be an ongoing problem. So what I'm looking at is, why don't we try to be able to use those lots, one lot for mitigation. Let's say AJ, you're a builder and you have two lots. One is, they're both C tough builds with some wetlands in them. Take one of the lots and use it for the mitigation with county approval and all their stamps and all their stuff, and build the one house. And then after 2 years of paying dues on that lot, turn it back over to us to green space. Because eventually what's going to happen, those two lots will, at some point in time, are going to have to be taken back by us because of the fact of there's just nothing you can do with them. It's going to be a revolving door over and over and over again. And it's just a proposal to say, all right, we've got to the point where we're getting close to build out. Now let's look at this last little bit to, are we going to build on all of them? No, but we may not build, you probably are not going to be able to build on most of them anyways as it is because of the issues that you have dealt with the land. So that's what it's basically used for. But the process, the first and foremost is it's got to be approved by the county, their plans, and it has to be, all lots have to be cleaned. There's no liens, no nothing on them. And at the end of the 2 years, we take them back and turn it into green space, which probably should have been done when, like I said, when they turned the lots over, they should have really, I don't know if they did, but did a really good review and taken the lots back that were stuck, you're going to be stuck with at the back end that no one's ever going to be able to build on.
I guess I've got a question for you, Joe, with some of this. So you're saying that this guy has two lots, this developer. Do they have to be next to each other? Or can he have one lot in gate 5 and another lot in gate 3 that's maybe real buildable, and then you should come look at the two lots below my house?
Yeah, ideally, Linda, it would be great if they were side by side. And most of the lots that are the really bad ones are pretty much side by side. But again, if it was, let's say it was gate 5 and someone had one in gate 3, that's going to be up to the county to decide if they will allow that to happen. The county has the ultimate approval of all that because they have to approve whether it's going to be deemed a wetlands going forward, because that's what they're basically going to be used as. I can't deem it a wetland. And AJ knows that. I mean, there's a whole process that we have to go through to do that, and it's a cost and a test and all that. So ultimately, again, at the end of the day, it's the county to decide.
Joe, have we vetted with the county that we're allowed to put that in green space with a mitigation site on there?
Yep. Mm-hmm.
Does that mean there'd be like, do you know if that means there'd be 2 easements on the property then? One for the wetland, because those mitigation sites have to be held in perpetuity as well. And usually they have some sort of monitoring requirement for like 5 or 10 years as well.
These would come back into us as green space. When I talked to the county a little bit about it, they have actually been pushing it a little bit out here because of some of the builders, and they know that we're getting to the point of where the lots are getting harder and harder to build. So I have talked to the guys in the county, and they are okay with it. They've actually pushed a couple builders to look at going that route out here. It's just we're going to get to some point where Sudden Valley is going to have to take them back because there's no way we're ever going to be able to build on them. And I want to say there's like 400, maybe 500 lots altogether left.
407.
407. Thank you.
407.
And there's a potential that we might have to take all of those back. If we could get, say, half of those with a house on them, and the other half that we take back into with common space, I think we Sudden Valley wins, because we were not going to be chasing money after money after money to somebody who bought it and finds they can't build it and then walk away from it, and away we go.
I'm just gonna
There's a
say,
couple, go
go
ahead.
ahead, Linda.
There's a couple of things in here. In theory, then the builder would simply do a quit claim statutory deed to us on this, because there's language in this document that talks about a deposit previously paid by SVCA shall be refunded. Well, what deposit is that? I'm just kind of confused by some of this language.
The deposit would be for the house. They pay a deposit for the house.
Sorry, can you repeat that? Your mic cut in and out.
The deposit, I believe what you're looking at, Linda, would be for the house.
But it says it's being paid by Sudden Valley. That's what I don't understand. I understand the developer paying that, but that is not what this paragraph says.
What
It's
paragraph?
it's on page 7 of the packet,
Okay.
and it's under 2.3. It's the third paragraph, starting if the developer one notifies SVCA. In the middle of that, it talks about a deposit. Unless that's written incorrectly.
I don't know. I had Rich write this up and look at this. I can have him look at that again. And because I had him vet all of that when I started this. So, but I will have,
Because it sounds like we're paying money to the developer. Because it says that the deposit previously paid by SVCA shall be refunded by the developer to SVCA within 10 days. And that says we're spending money.
Yeah. Nah, I will check with him. That might not be verbiage right.
Okay.
Yeah,
I'm
because
just saying.
we're not paying, we are not paying any of the developers anything. This is all on their dime. That we are not giving them a single penny.
So while I can understand the appreciation for wanting to get as many fully developed dues paying lots as possible, I don't agree with that philosophy. If these lots are that poor to build on, it's kind of the property owner's due diligence in buying their parcels. I don't think necessarily like if those things, more development in the watershed is not helping our drinking water source. That has been proven. And that's why we're spending $100 billion in taxpayer money over 50 years to attempt to clean the lake. And so just development for the sake of development, I'm not here to say that we can take away people's rights to build on their parcels because we can't, but I don't know. I don't have any complete objections to this. I just, I do have one question. So they then own that lot for 2 years?
Yes.
I guess for me, I would rather just see them pay those 2 years in dues up front and then we just have the lot at that point. If we're gonna go down this road, why let them control something that we're inevitably gonna own for 2 years? It's like it's almost like, and then, I don't know, I guess to me that, and then that just puts more onus on the contractor as well to just do the right thing. And then, my only concern would be is, like I said, those mitigation sites, depending upon what it is, if it's wetland mitigation, those have monitoring requirements. And so how would that would be their responsibility as the developer or the home property owner that's building it. And so they would need access to those green sites. So they would need an easement over those wetland mitigations to do that monitoring for that period of time of whatever's required. And I don't know, maybe houses don't trigger those monitoring requirements. I'm not 100% sure, but I know our bigger projects definitely do.
Now, AJ, when I was talking with the county, they didn't say anything. They brought nothing up about that, about monitoring.
Okay. Well, maybe we should, could you maybe just ask about that again quick? Cause I think it'd be a good thing to know for us.
Okay.
Mr. President, I think I saw Leslie's hand and then Linda.
Yeah, I do have a question. If we opt not to do this, does that mean that a contractor would still go negotiate this with the county by themselves? Hey, I've got these 2 lots. I want to build on one. I want you to give me, mitigation, whatever on the other one. At that point, would the lot go to the county then?
That's a good question. That I cannot answer for you, Leslie.
I don't think the lot would go to the county in this instance at all. They don't like it's still private property.
I would, yeah, that would be a good question, but I have to agree with AJ. I don't think it would be able to because it is our lot. So we would have to get something for our lot no matter what. So I would say I don't think they can negotiate with the county on that one to give it to the county.
Go ahead, Leslie. You can.
Yeah.
We got another follow.
I am talking about a case where a contractor himself owns 2 lots. And as I say, the contractor would make an agreement with the county to give the county the lot as mitigation. And then it would belong to the county. At that point, are there taxes involved? Are they able to sell it or to try to sell it or whatever? I think this whole thing needs a lot more information as to what would happen if a contractor attempted to do this by themselves, as opposed to if we were to kind of facilitate the deal and wound up with, we owned it, we take it off the tax rolls, we don't pay for it, and it would become part of our green space.
Mr. President, Linda.
I guess one of the questions that I have 2 of them is why the 2-year time limit? And also then in number 7 in this document, it says that there are documents to be delivered for closing. So why is none of the information that they have to have from the county, the plan and the permit for them not listed underneath? Shouldn't that be part of the closing documents?
The paperwork is part of their package that will come in. Before Sudden Valley can issue that type of permit, they're going to have all of their paperwork in line, which will have that as well. The letter and approval from the county.
Okay, it just isn't listed in there as documents that need to be delivered. And normally, if there's stuff like that involved in properties, it's part of the final closing papers. That's all.
Yeah, I think the plan or whatever, I think in the closing documents, we may want to see the recorded easements so we know it's like been officially done. I have a question and I'm not sure if Joe can answer this or not, as this is somewhat historical but related to something you just said. When we did density reduction and some of these lots went into green space, and that was a combination effort from the city, the county, and us, are all of those lots owned by us, or some of them owned by the city, some of them owned by the county, some of them owned by us?
They're all owned by
It
us.
is my understanding they are all ours, and I believe Leslie will have that better, but it is my understanding that all those lots that were taken back are Sudden Valley's common space.
Okay. Is that what you recall, Leslie?
Yes, all of those came back in. It was the city, the county, the district, and Sudden Valley shared the cost of obtaining those. Most of them came back in the early 2000s when lots were selling at like $800 a piece, and we grabbed everything we could. And they were put into green space and taken off the tax rolls. Basically, it's in Sudden Valley's name, But I mean, we're not paying taxes. It's not costing anything except, you know, our taking care of them. I was going to move forward and ask about, we're talking about 2 years dues on these. If we vote on this and we agree to this, we would get 2 years dues for this lot that's going to be taken off of the tax rolls. Is that what we're saying?
Yes.
Okay. Now, if we don't, if the contractor makes this agreement by himself with the county, he could take a lot that he's owned for years and he has stopped paying on. And the county would take it because he probably hasn't paid taxes either. And I think that this would be a way for us to make sure that the Sudden Valley gets the dues that we're entitled to, and instead of just abandoning a piece of property.
I'd just like to pose a counterpoint to that a little bit, like we're entitled to the money. I actually think maybe if there's so many unbuildable lots out here, that maybe we should approach the city and county again about joint purchasing of lots to put them into green space to help protect our watershed, our drinking water, our wildlife corridors, and our natural environment that we have out here. But you know, I understand that we don't like to lose dues money and dues revenue, but at the end of the day, you know, the members voted for density reduction. They wanted it, and it appears to me from everyone that I've talked to that people still want it. And it mostly just seems to be, you know, the board and staff, for obvious reasons, being concerned about revenue is like the only people who seem to have that mentality. Go ahead, Leslie.
I just wanted to put a dollar amount on what you're saying. Since density reduction was voted on in 1993, we have taken approximately 1,500 lots out off of the rolls now. And if you put a dollar amount on that, that is over $1 million a year in dues that we're not getting. If you add another 500 lots to that, I mean, you're up at $1.5 million a year, but you know, the members are having to contribute because these things are no longer generating revenue for Sudden Valley. And I think that that's a question that needs to go to the membership. Are you willing to take on this extra cost?
Yeah, I mean, I contend that the membership said yes before, and you know, so to me, they've already said yes, that they support that. And so why we would need to go back to them to see if they still support it, but we could do that as well. I have one other thing. When someone owns two lots next to each other and they can join them, right? They only have to pay 1 year's worth of dues.
Yes.
Seems a little unfair that these people would have to then pay 2 years and those people only have to pay 1. Not very equitable. Rob, Mr. President, I think Rob and then Leslie.
Mm-hmm.
And Paula, did you raise your hand? Sorry, you're off mute. I don't. No.
Thank you. I was just wondering, when did the density reduction vote take place? Like, how far back is that?
Go, Leslie, go.
Yeah, it's something that I did look at several years ago. It was in 1993, and the members voted to take lots out of production for watershed protection and for green space, et cetera. And it was never specified how many lots. At that same vote, they said that if you joined 2 lots, you only had to pay 1 dues. And for each additional lot, you paid 1/2 more. Therefore, if you own 2 lots joined, you pay 1 dues, 3 lots would be 1.5, 4 would be 2, et cetera, et cetera. It was back in a vote in 2004 that the board decided that no matter how many lots you had conjoined, you only had to pay 1 dues. And it's been, apparently that is something that the board can do of its own volition. They can change this because it was never brought to a vote of the membership. And so that's where that came from, AJ, on, 2 lots is 1 dues, 3 is 1, 4 is 1, et cetera. No matter how many lots you have been joined, you only pay 1 dues annually.
A
Well,
follow-up
thank you.
question. Sorry, go ahead, Rob.
I'm sorry, AJ, I thought it's still on the floor.
No, go ahead.
Thank you. It seems like that far back, it would be good to maybe get a pulse on how folks are feeling, or I'm sure that a lot of the people that voted at that point may be gone at this point, so just a thought.
Just a follow-up question to Leslie. What sort of vote was that? Was it like I don't think it was a bylaw amendment, or what, for the density reduction approval from the membership? What sort of vote did we do for that?
Oh, dear.
I think, Leslie, I think it was at an AGM.
Yeah, it was. It was, there was the density
But it's not a
reduction.
budget vote. It's not a bylaw amendment. It's not a special set. What kind of vote is that?
I'm pretty sure it was a bylaw vote, but no, it couldn't have been, because some of those provisions did not go into the bylaws. But you will find in the bylaws some of the lot combination.
Yeah, I've seen those.
Yeah.
Okay. All
But
right.
everything didn't go in. There were 5 separate votes.
What year was that? 93?
93, yes.
Okay, maybe I'll go poke in the views. All right, I saw some hands. Maybe Karen, did you have your hand up? Josh just raised his hand. Josh, or Rob, were you done?
Thank you, AJ. Yes, I'm done. Thank you.
Okay, go ahead, Josh.
I'm sure a lot of those people, on Rob's point, have moved, or something, but a lot of people now are very more environmentally conscious, so that's something to consider as well.
Jesus. Okay, I think Leslie beat you all to the punch.
Just
Then
just a
Joe,
quick
then
one.
Linda.
But when I did this review of all of this information, I did write up about a 6-page, survey, and I will send it out to the entire board so that you can see the timelines and the decisions that were made. Okay.
Go ahead, Joe.
I'll yield to Linda. And then
The only thing I wanted to say is, back when this was discussed, and I think particularly it was brought up in 2004, that, they tried to tell the membership, you're going to lose these dues, and somewhere along the line, you end up paying more because of it. And sometimes I think back then, we had really low dues, and everybody was like, it's no big deal. And it has become a big deal. And it's like, like somebody said, there are tons of people that didn't live here that voted on that. And I think that, we've gotten to a point in time and inflation and everything else where it's a bigger point of information. It makes us look better at the water, in the watershed, which is a plus, but you also pay more.
yeah, I get where Josh and you, AJ, you're coming about the water and watershed, because I enjoy the outdoors and I understand the water and the watersheds really well. I'm just trying to figure a way out so that we don't have to keep spending money on stuff over and over again, and not be able to do anything with them. So I think the course of action would be to, pound this out a little bit better if we're going to run that route, or go ahead and put it to the membership and say, we're going to take these back, but there's a cost associated with this that we're going to lose. So, I'm trying to balance, all fronts here.
Yeah, I understand. Rich, I think you had your hand.
Yeah, I did. To your point of conjoining for 1 year's dues versus what's being proposed, I have a conjoined lot. And with that, I have a commitment to care for that lot and maintain it, because it joins the lot that my house is on. Whereas when Joe takes that over, now maintenance has the responsibility. So an additional year's dues for what's going to be green space maintenance for years.
Forever.
you know, 2 years dues doesn't seem to be excessive to me.
Yeah, I was just concerned about equity.
I think Paula had her hand up.
Sorry, go ahead, Paula.
Oh, no, it looks like it's wrapping down. I was simply going to suggest, since it looks like we have information that we need Joe to bring back to the group, that we move on from this until we get that information and then decide how we want to move forward once we have the information that we need.
Joe, go ahead.
All right, I have the questions that you guys have. If you have any other ones, get them to me over the next day or so. I will send them back down to Rich, and I'll reach out to the county. And then can we put it on the agenda for the 23rd, Mr. President? Okay. All right, is that good with everybody?
That's good.
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Thanks, Joe. And thanks, everyone. That was a great conversation. Next agenda item is our Emergency Preparedness Committee is looking for a board representative. And my understanding is Paul is willing to take on that front. Anything else to add, Paula?
Nope, I've been looking to join that committee a while ago anyway, and I'm not currently on another committee. And so I'd like to join that one, and they need a board liaison. They have a chair. They just need a board liaison to bring the information forward.
Do we need to make a motion for this? Okay, I would like to make a motion for Paula Birchler to be the board liaison for the EPC committee.
Second.
Can we do that by acclamation?
Okay.
All right, thanks, everyone. Okay, now we will move into our property owner comments. Go ahead, John.
Okay, a couple more people have joined the meeting and our attendees. So this is your chance to step up to the mic, so to speak, for property owners' comments. Just use the raise hand feature in Zoom. And I've got Ann. I'll go ahead and bring her on over. Just go ahead and give your full name and address, please.
Hi, Ann Cope, 52 Louise View Drive. It's been so pleasant tonight. I don't want to be all negative. So I do want to say that the email you got from me today, absolutely real. That's not from a pseudonym. That's for me. And secondly, my only other comment really is about the salaries conversation last night. And I just want to say is, you know, my husband, his salary is published. It happens. It's fine. I don't think there's a reason not to publish them here. And that's all I have to say. Thanks.
All right, thanks, Ann. I'll go ahead and return you to the attendees. And anybody else like to add to property owners' comments? Just go ahead and use the raise hand feature in Zoom. And we've got Richard. I'll go ahead and bring Richard on over. Just give your full name and address, please.
Hi, Richard Henderson, Maple Court. I was also agreeing with tonight's discussion. Been really good. It's more about the last two nights about the budget, and I know you're all working really hard. It's very evident you could see that, but kind of what Ann said, the salary discussion kind of threw me off, and I've thought about it I've tried to think about it kind of the last couple of days. I mean, my salary is published, and I advise private sectors, like AJ was saying. I mean, best practice transparency is in salaries, and it's not for a place to shame or utilize it as a weapon. It's actually to dismantle white dominant norms, which are happen, so that people's salaries are transparent, and that women and women of color are not seeing their salary not being competitive with others. And I was kind of flabbergasted how that discussion went in so many different ways, where it's really a kind of common best practice. And then the other piece of it was the fact of how the golf course can say that they're not going to have a balanced budget, but one increases. I also struggle that any of us or anybody in general can go to their place of employment and say, I'm going to underproduce and want more money. And our maintenance department also said that they would be underfunding, and they're doing a lot of the work and taking on extra. So as a relatively new member, it was just kind of an eye opener to where the values and the priorities are. And I'm going to need to do more digging on that, and I'm trying to get invested. But as kind of a new person, I just seen the values were out of sync with your own group as well. And I don't want to. I think it's refreshing to see AJ and Linda and other people, Karen, everybody kind of talking amongst yourself. I don't think I'm not looking for a consensus, but I think the values were definitely kind of out of whack, and some of the common best industry practices need to be absolved. Because it feels like we're very much in a bubble, and it just seemed very strange for me, who's kind of in part of these discussions a lot. So that was all. I appreciate it.
All right, thank you, Richard. And return you to the attendees. Anybody else like to jump in here? And if you're on the app, you should be able to tap the screen and see the raise hand feature. Otherwise, on a PC or Mac, it should be down towards the bottom of the screen. Oh, we've got Brian here. I'll go ahead and bring him in. Brian, if you could just give your full name and address, please.
Whoops, I just realized I was muted.
There we go.
Sorry about that, everybody. 52 Louiseview Drive, Bellingham, Washington. Hey, I just wanted to say I've been tuning in the last couple nights, and I just wanted to show my appreciation to all of you volunteers. That's my doggy Walden back there. But I just wanted to just show my appreciation for all the hard work you guys are doing. Thanks a lot for your efforts on behalf of the community. Appreciate it. That's all.
And I'm still muted. I'll appreciate that, Brian. I'll go ahead and bring you back to the attendees.
Thanks, everybody.
All right, anybody else? All right, not seeing any further raised hands at this point, Mr. President.
Okay, thanks, John. We'll open it to the board members to respond if they'd like, or Joe.
I'd just like to reply to what Richard said. I think something he touched on is actually pretty relevant, important. Open salaries creates equity. You know, like the private sector, they can keep their salaries private or whatever, and then you run into these huge pay discrepancies between genders or races or whatever. And I think that's an important point, and I just want to say I appreciate Richard bringing that forward.
My hand's raised.
Go ahead, Steffi, then Rob.
Yeah, I wanted to thank you for saying that because, I mean, obviously I need my eyes open to all sorts of things in diversity. I really appreciate the equity for pay because females and females of color do not get equitable pay. I also wanted to thank you for the industry standard comment because I was thinking that as I was driving home tonight. So that would be, we really need to look at what industry standards are, although we are a little bit different. Everyone always is. So anyway, thanks for getting involved, and thanks, Anne, thanks, Brian, for your comments. Thank you. I'm done.
Is it my turn?
Yep, go ahead, Rob.
Yeah, thank you. I also wanted to thank property owners for their comments. We're listening, and I think that from the discussion last night, all of us on the board come from different backgrounds in different industry and whatnot. I don't come from the public sector. And for me, having worked in a corporate company, the salaries were tightly held, and it was expected of me to maintain that privacy. And so I think that's where I was coming from, was not to hide anything, but from the years that was something that I was held accountable to. And we talk about transparency and wanting to share information. That's very important. So I just want to acknowledge what people have said. I did get some emails. I've been busy all day and I didn't get a chance to respond to them. But thank you for your comments, neighbors.
Any further board response?
Andrew, I guess the thing I'd like to say is, I'm still going to say it, and I'll say it to you guys. I know what Rich had to say about disclosing salaries and stuff. I'm not talking about, I'm saying that as part of the budget process, I think those need to be information that's put out there. It's just like it's been done in the past. If we get to the point of where we can be a private sector company, like some of you have worked for, that you get to have, that it isn't the members' dues that pay for all this, I think they have a right to know what they're paying for. I really do. And I won't side away from that. It's just like, I think the golf course should have a balanced budget, but that's just me.
Thanks, Linda. Any further board responses?
I back Linda on that response. Thank you, Linda.
Okay, if there's no other responses, again, thank you, community members, for your input. Thank you for the board. Tonight was really well done. I appreciate everyone's time and a great conversation this evening. We'll need a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
Acclamation. All right, 8:33. We're adjourned. Thanks, everyone.
Thank
Night.
you.
Time.
Have a great
See
night.
you on the 16th.